All right, here's your expanded key point, one feet written in the style of a Matthew Hussey style speech, keeping it conversational, story-driven, and emotionally engaging, around 800 words. 2. When I say magic wand, I'm not talking about the one from Harry Potter. I'm talking about the one that exists in your mind when you're in a relationship and you think, if I could just wave this over him, he would instantly be the partner I know he could be. But let me flip it for a second, because he has one too. In his mind, there's something he wishes he could wave that wand and have you understand without him needing to explain it. And here's the interesting thing, most men will never hand you a list of those wishes. It's not because they're trying to be mysterious or keep you guessing. It's often because they don't have the language for it. We've been raised in a world that teaches men to suppress certain emotions, to avoid vulnerability unless absolutely necessary, and to keep things simple. But a man's inner world is rarely as simple as he'd like you to believe. There are layers, desires, insecurities, aspirations. There are things he deeply craves from you, not just in the romantic sense, but in the way you see him, the way you believe in him, the way you connect with him. The magic wand, in this sense, is the symbol for all the things he doesn't know how to tell you. And here's why that's important. Because if you only listen to the words he says, you'll miss half the story. The more important half. You have to tune into the moments between the words. The small actions, the changes in tone, the way his energy shifts when certain topics come up. That's where the real clues lie. Think about this, and maybe you're sitting with him and he tells you about something at work. He breezes over it, doesn't make a big deal. But the way he tells it, you notice something in his voice. Pride, maybe, or disappointment. You have a choice in that moment. You can nod, move on, and treat it like a passing comment. Or you can stop and lean in. That sounds like it meant something to you. Tell me more. When you do that, you're effectively picking up his magic wand and saying, I see the thing you're not saying, and I care enough to uncover it. What he secretly wants, more than you might think, is for you to know him in a way that makes him feel safe enough to be fully himself. Not the polished version he shows to the world, not the I've got it all together act he thinks you fell for, but the raw, unfiltered him, the him that sometimes doubts himself, the him that has dreams he hasn't dared to speak out loud, the him that wants to feel your faith in him even when he's not sure he's earned it. And here's the twist. He might never ask you for that directly. In fact, he might act in ways that make you think he doesn't need it. He might act confident, brush things off, or even joke about moments of vulnerability to downplay them. But beneath that, there's often a desire for someone to look past the act and connect with the human underneath. That's what the magic wand is really about, seeing the unseen. Now, this doesn't mean you become a mind reader. It doesn't mean you take on the exhausting task of decoding every tiny thing he does. It's about paying attention in the moments that matter. And when you do notice something, it's about acting on it in a way that feels natural. That might be a well-timed question, a touch, a look, or a sentence that says, I get you. Because when a man feels gotten, really gotten, he stops needing to hide. There's something incredibly attractive about that dynamic. When he feels safe enough to let you in, you're not just another person in his life. You become the person. The one he associates with a sense of relief, of belonging, of being accepted as he is. And when that happens, his guard comes down, his affection flows more freely, and the connection deepens without you having to force it. Let me be clear, though, this isn't about fixing him. This isn't about thinking, oh, If I just know all his secret desires, I can mold him into the perfect partner. That's not a relationship. That's a project. And no one wants to feel like a project. What this is about is simply holding space for the parts of him he doesn't easily share. That's the kind of magic that builds trust over time. I'll tell you something. Men are often more romantic than we give them credit for, not necessarily in the flowers and candlelight way, but in the way they cherish the person who sees them when they feel invisible. They remember the little moments where you seem to read between the lines and understand them without judgment. That's what stays with them. That's what makes them think, she's different. So the first step to using that magic wand isn't about making some big dramatic gesture. It's about showing up with curiosity. It's about not accepting the easy answer when you sense there's more beneath it. It's about giving him permission to be a whole person with you. And when you do that, you're not just fulfilling some secret desire. You're creating a space where he wants to keep showing up, keep opening up, and keep building something real with you. Because in the end, the magic wand isn't about control. It's about connection. And the real magic is what happens when you see him for all that he is, and he feels lucky every single day that you do, all right? Here's your key point 2 oversess and expanded into about 800 words, keeping the tone like a Matthew Hussey live speech, conversational, story-driven, and naturally flowing into the next part of the talk. When it comes to what he really wants, most of the time he's not going to stand there and say it outright. And I don't mean just in relationships. Men in general are taught, from a young age, to be economical with their words when it comes to emotions. We live in a culture that tells men it's okay to express ambition, confidence, maybe frustration, but anything softer, any kind of longing, insecurity, or vulnerability gets buried under layers of I'm fine and hoots nothing. So if you're waiting for him to sit you down and give you the full play of his emotional world, you might be waiting a long time. But here's the thing, he's telling you all the time, just not in words. Men communicate so much through subtle cues, tone, micro expressions, where their attention goes, how they position themselves when you're near them, even the pauses in conversation. And most of the time, they don't even realize they're doing it. It's not a conscious act. It's just the way their emotions leak out when they can't or won't say the thing directly. Think about it like this. When a man tells you about something that happened in his day, the facts are one thing, but the way he tells you, how fast or slow his voice is, how his shoulders shift, the way he glances at you to check your reaction, that's where the deeper story is. If you're only listening for the literal meaning, you'll miss the gold. But if you're watching and feeling the whole moment, you'll start to notice patterns. Let me give you an example. Imagine he's talking about a project at work. He says, "Yeah, it went well." That's the literal statement. But his tone is a little flat. He doesn't look at you. And he changes the subject quickly. There's a good chance "went well" actually means "I'm not as proud of it as I wanted to be," or "it went fine, but I'm frustrated about something I can't explain." On the other hand, if his eyes light up, if there's an energy in his body when he speaks, even if he downplays it verbally, that's your sign that it's something he's genuinely proud of and wants you to notice. This is where decoding the unsaid becomes such a powerful skill. Not because it lets you play detective all the time, but because it helps you connect in a way that feels effortless for him. You're essentially meeting him where he is, instead of asking him to come all the way over to your style of communication. Now, I can already hear some of you thinking, But isn't this a lot of work? And the answer is, it doesn't have to be. This isn't about dissecting every eyebrow twitch. It's about being present enough to catch the moments that matter. The moments where his energy changes, or where there's a slight gap between what he's saying and how he's saying it. When you catch those moments, you have an opportunity. You can lean in, sometimes literally, and say, "That sounded like it was important to you." Or, "You seem a little off about that, what's going on?" You'd be amazed at how often a man will open up, just be you noticed. It's like you've shown him, "I see past the script you're reading from." And when he feels seen like that, you're building trust without even trying to fix anything. Here's the other side of this. Sometimes decoding the unsaid isn't about emotion. It's about desire. There are little things he wants, things that would light him up, that he'll never actually request. Maybe he wants more appreciation for the things he does. Maybe he craves a certain kind of affection or a specific way of spending time together. He might hint at it through small actions. Bringing something up casually, mentioning something a friend's partner did, or even joking about it. Those hints are invitations. They're his way of putting something out there without risking rejection by asking outright. If you can spot those hints and then act on them without making it a big announcement, you create this almost magical effect where he feels understood without having to campaign for it. That's when he starts thinking, "She just gets me?" And when someone feels like you just get them, they want to invest in that connection. But I want to make something clear. You're not doing this to play games or gain leverage. You're not decoding his cues so you can manipulate the situation. You're doing it because relationships thrive when both people feel deeply known. And often, the most revealing parts of a person are the ones they never say out loud. This is why, when you really tune into these cues, you can actually prevent misunderstandings before they start. A lot of conflict comes from taking words at face value when the underlying meaning is something totally different. If you're able to gently say, "I hear what you're saying, but I also feel like there's something else there," you open the door for a real conversation. And that's where intimacy grows. So here's the truth. Most men won't hand you a map to their inner world. But if you pay attention to the trail of small signs they leave, you'll find yourself knowing them in ways they didn't even know were possible. And when you know someone like that, you don't just meet their needs, you make them feel truly, powerfully connected to you. Because in the end, the things he doesn't say often speak the loudest. If you're willing to listen for them, here's your key point 3 dozen expanded into an 800-word Matthew Hussey style segment, flowing, engaging, and designed to naturally fit the speech's progression. One of the most underrated forces in attraction is anticipation. We tend to think attraction is all about what we do in the moment. The date, the kiss, the conversation. But there's a quiet, almost invisible energy that builds when you make someone excited for what's coming next. It's that sweet spot between giving them what they want and making them wait just enough so they can't stop thinking about it. When it comes to his secret desires, anticipation works like oxygen. Without it, the spark dies quickly. With it, he's hooked. Not because you're manipulating him, but because you're feeding a part of him that thrives on the build-up. And trust me, every man has this part. It's the same part that gets excited before a big game, that feels alive in the days leading up to a trip, that loves imagining how good something's going to be before it even happens. The magic of anticipation is that it creates a mental loop. Once you've planted the seed of something he can look forward to, Whether it's an experience, a surprise, or a deeper moment of connection, his mind keeps returning to it. And every time it does, the feeling gets stronger. The brain can't always tell the difference between what's happening now and what it's imagining. So the more he thinks about it, the more he feels it. Now, here's the interesting thing. Most people accidentally kill anticipation without realizing it. They rush to give everything up front. They reveal the surprise too early, they over-explain their plans, or they do everything in predictable patterns so there's nothing left to wonder about. Predictability might feel safe, but too much of it is the enemy of excitement. This doesn't mean you need to be mysterious for the sake of it. It's not about withholding affection or playing hard to get. It's about pacing your moments together so he has time to feel the build up. Think of it like music. If every song started with the chorus, it would lose its power. The verses, the build, the tension. That's what makes the chorus hit hard when it finally comes. Let's say you know there's something he would love, maybe an experience you've planned or something intimate between you. Instead of announcing every detail, you give him just enough to make his mind race. I've got something planned for Saturday night. Wear something you feel incredible in. That's it. No long explanation, no spoilers. You've planted the seed. And now, his brain is going to chew on that all week. He's going to imagine possibilities. And every time he does, his excitement and connection to you grows. Anticipation also works in small, everyday moments. A well-timed message during the day. A look you give him across the room, a playful hint about later. These create micro moments of build-up. And the beauty is, when you finally deliver on whatever it was, the actual moment feels bigger because of the energy leading up to it. Here's something else anticipation does. It shows him that you're invested in the experience you're creating together. It says, I've thought about this. I've thought about us. That level of intentionality makes him feel chosen. And when a man feels chosen in that way, it's powerful. It's not just about the action. It's about what it represents, that you're willing to put thought into keeping the spark alive. Now, some people hear this and think, well, shouldn't love be natural? Shouldn't it just happen? And yes, love might happen naturally, but maintaining excitement over time is a choice. It's not about forcing something fake. It's about protecting the energy that made you connect in the first place. When you first meet someone, anticipation happens naturally because everything is new. Over time, you create it intentionally by leaving just enough space for the imagination to play. I'll tell you something most won't. Anticipation isn't just about romance or intimacy. It's about emotional connection too. If you know he's working on something important and you tell him, I can't wait to celebrate with you when you're done, you're creating a future moment in his mind. He starts imagining that celebration, how it will feel, and that fuels him in the present. The real secret to anticipation is follow through. If you build something up, you have to deliver. And the delivery doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be intentional and real. Because the second you break the link between the build up and the payoff, you lose trust. But when you get it right, when the moment lives up to or even surpasses the anticipation, you create a high he will want to experience with you again and again. So, why does he secretly want you to create anticipation? Because it makes him feel alive. It taps into the part of him that loves the chase, the thrill, the sense of possibility. And when you become the person who brings that feeling into his life, not just once, but consistently, you stop being part of the background noise of his days. You become the part of his life he looks forward to most. Because the truth is, The best moments in life aren't just the ones we live. They're the ones we can't stop imagining before they happen. Here's your key point 4 expanded into about 800 words with the same flowing, audience engaging style you've been using in this speech. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is thinking you have to choose between being mysterious and being direct. They think it's either all about keeping him guessing or it's all about laying everything on the table at all times. But the truth is, the most magnetic connections balance the two. Mystery without clarity feels confusing. Clarity without any mystery can feel flat. It's the combination that keeps things exciting while still making him feel secure. If all you ever do is surprise him, you create uncertainty. He doesn't know where he stands, and for most men, that can feel exhausting over time. On the other hand, if everything about you is completely predictable, what you'll say, what you'll do, how you'll react, you remove the possibility of curiosity. And curiosity is the spark that makes someone lean in instead of drift away. Balancing mystery with directness is about knowing when to keep certain details in your back pocket and when to give him the clarity he needs to feel safe with you. You can be open about your feelings while still leaving space for discovery. You can communicate your boundaries while still having playful edges to your personality that he's constantly discovering. Think about it like a great conversation. If someone tells you their entire life story in one breath, you stop asking questions. But if they give you parts of it, enough to intrigue you, you naturally want to know more. Relationships work the same way. You can show him who you are without showing every single page of the book in the first sitting. Directness is powerful because it eliminates unnecessary games. If something's important to you, say it. If you appreciate something he did, tell him. If you want more of a certain kind of connection, let him know. A man will always respond better to someone who can express themselves clearly than to someone who constantly expects him to read their mind. Directness builds trust. But mystery is the element that adds depth to that trust. It's the small surprises, the unexpected opinions, the way you share a new side of yourself in a moment he wasn't expecting. Maybe he thought he knew your taste in music, and then you put on something completely different and tell him the story of why it matters to you. Maybe you try something new together and he gets to see a completely different side of your personality. Mystery reminds him there's always more to learn about you. And that makes him keep showing up. The beauty of combining the two is that it makes your connection dynamic. He knows the important things, how you feel, what matters to you, where you stand, but he also knows that you're capable of surprising him. And surprise, when it's rooted in love and playfulness, is one of the most intoxicating experiences in a relationship. This balance also makes your boundaries stronger. When you're direct, he knows where the line is. When you have a touch of mystery, he's excited to explore what's inside that line without constantly testing it. Too much mystery without boundaries can feel like chaos. Too much directness without any sense of play can feel like a routine. But when you blend them, you get something that feels both safe and exciting, and that's rare. You might be thinking, okay, but how do I actually do this in real life? Here's how. Start by getting comfortable with telling him what's true for you in the moment. If something's on your mind, say it in a way that's open, not defensive, and then actively create little opportunities for him to discover new sides of you. Through shared experiences, through the way you tell stories, through the way you respond differently to familiar situations. It's not about manufacturing drama or withholding affection. It's about pacing your openness so there's always a sense of forward movement in your relationship. He should feel like he's always getting closer to you, but never quite finished discovering you. That feeling of, there's more here, is what makes a man stay curious for years, not just months. And let's be honest, this isn't just for him, it's for you too. Mystery keeps you from falling into autopilot. It reminds you to keep evolving, to keep learning, to keep bringing new energy into the relationship. Directness keeps you grounded, ensuring you're not losing yourself in the process. Together, they create a rhythm that feels alive. Because when you strike that balance, when he knows where he stands, but still feels there's more to explore, you're not just keeping his attention, you're keeping his respect, his excitement, and his desire to keep choosing you every single day. Here's your key point 5C expanded into about 800 words in the same smooth, story-driven, audience-engaging style. 2. When we talk about this magic wand of his, this idea of fulfilling something he secretly wants, it's important to remember that the power it represents can be used in two very different ways. One will deepen your connection, make him feel more alive, and inspire him to be his best self. The other will weaken trust, create resentment, and eventually break the bond you're trying to build. The difference comes down to intent. Every relationship has influence. When someone cares about you, the things you say, the way you act, the choices you make, they all have an impact on how they see themselves and the decisions they take. That's why the wand is such a powerful metaphor. It's not just about knowing what he wants. It's about what you choose to do with that knowledge. The temptation for some people, whether they realize it or not, is to use that influence to control, to get what they want by pulling the right strings, pressing the right buttons. And it might work in the short term. You might get him to act the way you want, give you more attention, make certain choices. But control never inspires. It only obligates. And the moment someone feels obligated instead of inspired, the energy in the relationship changes. That's why the wand should always be used to bring out the best in him, not to bend him into the shape you think he should be. Your goal isn't to create a puppet. It's to be the person who helps him step more fully into who he already is when he's at his best. Think about a time someone believed in you more than you believed in yourself. Maybe they encouraged you to go after something you didn't think you could achieve. Maybe they reminded you of a strength you'd forgotten you had. That kind of influence changes people. It sticks with them. You remember it for years. That's what you want to create for him when you use your magic. In this way, it's not about taking control of his story. It's about giving him the courage to write it himself. Sometimes that means cheering him on when he's doubting himself. Sometimes it means calling him out when you know he's playing small. Sometimes it's simply being consistent, showing him through your actions that you believe in the man he's capable of being. And here's the thing, using the wand for good doesn't mean being endlessly agreeable. It's not about nodding along with everything he says or overlooking bad behavior. In fact, it's the opposite. If you're going to help someone grow, you have to be willing to challenge them. Lovingly, but firmly. When they're out of alignment with who they say they want to be. That's one of the most powerful ways to show you care. The beauty of this approach is that it's not manipulative. You're not trying to twist his arm into doing something that benefits only you. You're creating moments that benefit both of you by making the relationship a place where growth, joy, and respect are the default. When he knows that being around you makes him feel stronger, more capable, more inspired, he'll naturally want to give more to the relationship. Not because you demanded it, but because you make him want to rise to the occasion. This is also how you keep the relationship from becoming transactional. If all you ever do is figure out what he wants so you can use it to get something in return, you'll both end up feeling like you're bartering instead of connecting. But if you focus on giving in ways that make him better, you create something that's sustainable. You're both feeding into the connection in a way that grows it instead of draining it. Sometimes the most powerful use of the wand is subtle. It's in the way you acknowledge his effort, even when the outcome isn't perfect. It's in the way you listen without judgment when he shares something vulnerable. It's in the way you light up when he shares a win. Small moments like that can completely shift the way a man sees himself, and when his self-perception improves in your presence, he starts to associate you with the very best version of who he is. But I'll give you a warning, this only works if it's real. You can't fake genuine belief in someone. You can't fake wanting the best for them. People can sense when your encouragement is really just a means to an end. If you want to use your influence for good, it has to come from a place of authenticity. That means you're as invested in his growth as you are in your own, and you're willing to give without the guarantee of immediate return. Because here's the truth, if you use the wand selfishly, you might get moments of compliance. But if you use it selflessly, you'll get a lifetime of loyalty. Here's your key point, Sixtus expanded into about 800 words in the same smooth, live audience style as the rest of your speech. When you take that secret desire of his, the thing he wishes you'd do with his magic wand, and instead of keeping it one-sided, you turn it into something the two of you share, that's when the relationship stops being about you and him and starts being about us. Because it's one thing to fulfill a want for someone, it's another to make that want part of a shared experience that both of you feel invested in. A lot of people get stuck in the mindset of giving and receiving as separate acts. I give him this, then he gives me that. That's a transaction, and transactions don't build lasting bonds. They can keep things running for a while, sure, but they don't create the kind of intimacy that makes two people want to choose each other again and again over the years. What creates that intimacy is when the fulfillment of his desire also feeds you, and when what you need inspires him too. It's about creating a loop where what you're doing for him is something you're both emotionally connected to. That could be as simple as sharing in something he loves, not because you're ticking off a box, but because you've found a way to make it enjoyable for both of you. It could mean taking one of his dreams and weaving it into your own life, so it's no longer just his thing, but something that belongs to the relationship. This is where so many relationships quietly fall apart. One person starts to feel like they're the only one trying to make the other happy, or they start feeling like they're giving into someone else's preferences without ever feeling the joy themselves. But when you create a shared spell, a moment, a habit, a tradition that lights you both up, you remove that imbalance. It stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like connection. Think about it. If he's got a goal or a project that matters to him, you could just encourage him from the sidelines. Or you could find a way to be part of the journey. That doesn't mean doing the work for him or inserting yourself where you don't belong. It means finding a role that lets you contribute, celebrate, and share the wins together. Maybe you're the one who reminds him why he started when he's tempted to quit. Maybe you're the one who helps him see progress when he's focused only on what's left to do. The point is, you're not just a witness to his journey, you're a co-author in it. And it works both ways. When he starts feeling the joy of helping you chase something that matters to you, when he experiences the pride of being part of your wins, that's when the magic multiplies. You're no longer just two individuals occasionally meeting in the middle. You're a team building something together. The beauty of this is that it doesn't have to be grand. Sometimes the shared spell is in the little rituals. Cooking together on Sunday nights, going for a walk at the same time every morning, having a standing date where you try something new every month. These aren't just activities, they're threads that weave your lives together. Over time, those threads become part of your identity as a couple. They're those moments you look back on and say, that's ours. And when those moments are tied to something he secretly wants, to feel admired, to feel desired, to feel like you believe in him, they take on even more meaning. Because now, when you're fulfilling that desire, it's not in isolation. It's not just about making him feel good in the moment. It's about reinforcing the connection you're building together. The other benefit of turning his secret wish into a shared experience is that it removes the pressure. If it's only ever about you giving and him receiving, it can create a quiet imbalance. But when you're sharing in it, it becomes play, it becomes light, it becomes something you both look forward to, which keeps it alive longer. It also builds resilience. When a relationship is just a collection of individual acts of giving and taking, it's fragile. If one person stops, the whole thing suffers. But when you've built shared spells, things that make both of you feel more alive, it creates momentum. You can ride that momentum through the tougher times because you've got a bank of moments that remind you why you're in it together. So the goal isn't just to figure out what he secretly wants from his magic wand. The goal is to take that thing and weave it into the fabric of your connection so it's no longer just his. It's yours. It's part of the story you're writing together. Because the most powerful magic in any relationship isn't what you do for each other. It's what you create together.